That's the what I look at we're reclaiming, because even if you look at, there are other symbols that really they're teaching us about processes and states. Okay. And what I mean by that is, you know, say for instance, you're familiar with the idea of the philosopher's stone.
Yes.
Okay. So the philosopher's stone, if you the it, most people think that it is, you know, trying to turn lead into gold or anything like that, but in reality it is again about our human journey, is what they're talking about. Okay. And the philosopher's stone is the idea of really operating from the indestructible aspect of who you are, which is the soul. Okay, or what we might call a soul. I like to say essence. Okay, so that is like the ultimate state, and from a comedic perspective, you operate from that state as your baseline. And what happens is as humans, rather than, because most times we operate from a place of an idea of brokenness. Okay, that something is wrong with us, that we need to fix, that, you know, blah blah blah. Okay, that's how, you know, you're a born sinner, you know, you're wicked, you know, from a religious perspective. From a medical perspective, you know, you're diseased, you're ill, you know, blah blah blah. Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
that's,
so dislike that idea.
yes, and it keeps us mired in that frame, but we have never ever had a way to think about it differently. So, but the ancient Kemetic teachings, they don't operate from brokenness; they operate from, you are whole, you are divine. Okay, and when you are divine, then that is your baseline. But as humans, we can get misaligned with divinity. Okay, and how do you get back on track is what the goal is. So, I'm saying the philosopher's stone, so I'm coming around to something here.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
so with the philosopher's stone, that is the excuse me, that is the state that we should be operating from our indestructible soul self. But how do you do that? How do you get to that point? Okay, so one way that was coded, that we look at this symbol, if we know anything about medicine or been to a hospital or anything, we look at this symbol all the time, and it is the caduceus. Okay, the caduceus is actually about it's a coded process to help you reach the philosopher's stone. Okay, so this is how that works. So in we have to think in terms of paradox when we're talking about. So we're using our soul self as the baseline,
Hmm.
and we have to think in terms of operating through paradox. And when I say paradox, I define it just in a simple way of, a paradox means it's this and that. Okay, so a lot of people think of it as a contradiction, but that's not a paradox. A paradox means that it is both and. So when we're saying that something is both and, then we are able to hold these two states within ourselves. And when we're able to hold those two states within ourselves, then we're able to actually create a place of peace within. So the actual caduceus, if you notice, they are two serpents that are intertwining up a central pole. Okay, the two serpents can be symbolized. They can symbolize our parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, but they're not fighting each other. They're intertwining up this central pole. What we do in the ontology of brokenness is, say, we talk about shadows, and shadows we either try to ignore them or we try to bypass them. And when I say bypass, say for instance, we might use affirmations to not acknowledge the shadow. We don't acknowledge it. We just try to bypass it and jump over it, in a sense, to become whole. But it doesn't work. It doesn't last. Okay, if it does work at all. Okay, but what the ancients were saying is, don't bypass it. actually use that shadow as your fuel for transformation. The way that you do that is you work through paradox.